The Packers win the North. I think a lot of people, Minnesota, Detroit, Minnesota new quarterback, right? Detroit, 2 new coordinators. We don't know if Ben Johnson can coach. The Packers went 1-5 last year in the division. They won 11 games. Their quarterback also got hurt week 1, which kind of threw them off. They have one of the best offensive coordinators in the league, who's their head coach in LaFleur. Their defense last year, getting Halfley from Boston College, was a top 5 unit in the league. So, and they got a lot of young players. I think the Packers are going to be a force to be reckoned with. I wouldn't be stunned if they were the number 1 overall seed.
Well, here's what's interesting about that pick. I had this kind of inner conversation. I was thinking about this the other day. My problem with Green Bay is every team in the league I like has at least 3 elite players. Who's their best player?
It's a group unit.
It's
a team unit.
I mean,
but
I love
their operation, Colin.
It is, but they don't get free agents, so they can't solve holes. So if they have a hole, they have to get it in the draft. Like, I like their wide receivers. They saw it as a weakness and attacked it in the first round. Like, I thought Jair Alexander 2 years ago was their best player. I don't know who he is right now.
I'll say this about the Packers. A lot like the Ravens, they draft and develop as well as any team in the league. They do. And their offensive line is always excellent. So to me, Jordan Love, obviously they need him to play at a higher level, but I just trust the infrastructure there.
Okay, you're not going to like this.
Okay. You're not going to like this is for a different take, nothing to do with the Packers. I love this take, actually. A lot of people talk about saying that the Rams played the Eagles the best in the playoffs. That's a pretty common take.
Okay, you're not going to like this. Is for a different take. Nothing to do with the Packers. I love this take, actually. A lot of people talk about saying that the Rams played the Eagles the best in the playoffs. That's a pretty common take because they had like a kind of a chance to win at the end. It was obviously in a blizzard. There was a lot going on. Jalen Hurts' knee was shredded. But you could actually make the argument the Packers played them the best, especially that offense the best. When you really look at the film and look at how that game unfolded, and I think in a very quick, limited timeline, I think Dan Orowski highlighted that very well of how everybody was covered. People tried to blame Jalen Hurts they were like, oh, Jalen Hurts didn't have a good game. And it was like, no, Jalen Hurts had a great game considering what the Packers defense did. They took away everything. Pretty much nobody was open throughout that game. And of course, the offense fell apart. Dealing with injuries all around. Everyone started dropping like flies, and it's tough to win. You're not going to beat the Super Bowl team that's hanging 55 points, doing that. And think about that, right? They hung 55 points, and they could have hung another 55 against the Kansas City Chiefs. And yet it was, it was a low, gritty, weird, physical wild card game on the road. And the Packers, again, I'm not going to pretend like they played great or that it was like sneaky, like a brilliant game, but like there was still juice there. And if you did get a better performance out of Jordan Love, and I don't blame Jordan Love necessarily for that loss by no stretch of the imagination, but you could make the argument like, all right, that's just like you could have come away with like a very bizarre, weird win, just like it could have been with the Rams in that moment. And so, considering all that the Packers dealt with last season, the fact that they did win the amount of games that they had, the fact that they did, compete with some pretty great teams in various moments throughout the season, I think bought us well for them. And we definitely had a very inconsistent year from the Packers. I think it was a little bit inconsistent from coaching. I think it was a little bit inconsistent from quarterback play, but again, I'm not putting that, those aren't value statements on like a Jordan Love or Matt LaFleur. Like I've really defended them and gave them a lot of leeway to have the season that they had. And so the way I look at it, and this was kind of a similar take that I had going into last season, is very much just like, how great the Packers are. It really will come down to LaFleur and Jordan Love's relationship. Do they start to really see eye to eye? I did not feel like that they 100% saw eye to eye last season. It still felt like there was like a little bit of a disconnect. And I don't mean like, again, from like a personal relationship standpoint. Everything just felt looser than you would want it to be. And I'm just looking for this offense to feel a lot more buttoned up, a lot more by the book, a lot smoother, less racy, just a lot more fluid. And again, like I keep saying, I just want to keep emphasizing this. I want to get ahead of any of the comments. There was many reasons for why that was the case last season, and it's just like I'm looking for this season to not have those issues, to not have that be the thing. And I think, ultimately more than anything, to kind of keep zooming in more and more and more for John Middle's prediction to be correct in terms of winning the NFC North and even being the #1 overall seed. Well, then Jordan Love needs to truly regardless of his relationship, regardless of some of the fluidity and some of the other things that I'm talking about, Jordan Love would really need to settle in as I am a top quarterback in the end. Like, not like just like, oh, he's a top quarterback, like truly a top, like no more of the games of like Stafford and Herbert and, because we know we got like Lamar, Josh, and, Mahomes. Everyone always like, yeah, those three. But everyone's always kind of like, well, what about Jaden? What about Hurds? What about Stafford? And it's just like Jordan Love would have to really establish himself as being like, guys, like, I know we took a little bit of a detour. I know it took us a few seasons to get there. I wasn't playing behind Aaron, et cetera, et cetera. I am truly a bona fide, no argument, top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And if Jordan Love plays like an actual MVP candidate, then I can absolutely see this without a shadow of a doubt. And I'm on the record saying that I think that the Detroit Lions take a step back. I'm not going to act like they're taking this massive step back, but I am concerned when you lose both coordinators. I think that's a real thing, and I do think we will get I think there's a real chance that we get a lesser version of Jared Goff and unable to troubleshoot, right? When all quarterbacks need to be troubleshooted throughout a game, throughout a season. And when you don't have a great coach there to do that, it's a tough one. And so that's why I feel like that's what we'll see with Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. I do think we'll see a gigantic step forward with the Bears and Caleb Williams. So then to me, with Ben Johnson. So to me, it'll come down to then, probably more so, who at the heart of it has the better roster if you're going to be looking at it between those two teams. And then, of course, you still have the Minnesota Vikings to the party. And it's like, how quickly can J.J. McCarthy hit the ground running? J.J. McCarthy can hit the ground running quickly. Well, that roster is awesome, and they have a great coaching staff on both sides of the ball. If you're a Packers fan, you're going to believe that you're better than the Vikings, not because of the pure roster and coaching staff. You're going to be like, well, their quarterback is going to be a first-year starter, essentially a rookie. There's no way he's going to be ready in time. Like, that's going to be the lens that you're looking at, and you're going to have faith that Jordan Love is going to be a more established quarterback in important moments, especially head-to-head. But is that roster great enough where it doesn't matter? So it's this division. They talk about how there's kind of a split between which division do you think is harder, the AFC West or the NFC North? And it's just kind of like, this is the most interesting division to me because of the quarterback coach situation that we see. I mean, it's just, to me, it's fascinating what we have here. And yeah, I mean, there are, if you're Jordan Love now and the Green Bay Packers, okay, you have to be able to take advantage of 2 young quarterbacks who are now with their coaches for the first time, or the first time starting. Like, that needs to be enough. You need to be a great enough team where it's like, oh, that's all we need. Oh, this is a first-year starter. Yeah, we're good. This is his first time with this first-time head coach. Like, yep, that's all we need. It would be more forgiving for me to see you lose to the Lions. Not because of that. They're just obviously going to be a pretty good team, even a great team with a great roster, but more so because, like, Jared Goff, even though I think he could take a step back, like, he is an established veteran quarterback, clearly. And although he has new coordinators there now, which do matter, especially when you're going to be a more walk-on coach like Dan Campbell is, there's still, like an established there. So I'm be more forgiving about that. But if you're a Packers fan and you've now had a lot of continuity, obviously with Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love at this point, it's like you're going up against a J.J. McCarthy first-year starter, Caleb Williams second year. First year was an absolute mess. Now first-year head coach with Ben, it's just like you need to be great enough. Your coach needs to be great enough. Your quarterback needs to be great enough. Your roster needs to be great enough. Those are all those little things that you need. And like, that's how football works. That's why you have all the spies. You have all this type of stuff. Like, everyone's trying to predict and guess, and everyone's covering their mouth because all you do is need the tiniest little advantage in football, and it just breaks everything wide open. Breaks everything wide open. And so if you're looking at this through the Packers lens, that has to be enough. It has to be enough. It was enough for the Philadelphia Eagles against the Commanders. Jaden Daniels is hot on fire. This, that, and they were like, that's great, doesn't matter. We're actually established. We have a defensive coordinator who's been in the NFL for like 1,000 years. He knows how to get after young rookie quarterbacks. And that's what you constantly see that on defense, especially with defensive coaches. I talk about this all the time. You have great defensive coordinators or great defensive head coaches who consistently, year after year after year after year, just get after first year, second year quarterback. They just get after them. They just know how to expose them year after year after year. And that's what great coaches can do. That's what great coaches can do. And so it's just like, that has to be enough in a situation like this for you to be able to be like, no. And if they can't do that, and I'm going to be using that as kind of like as a reference point to be like, oh, how great are you? How great are you at exposing even the smallest of a weakness of a team? Because that's what it takes. That's absolutely what it takes. Think about the Philadelphia Eagles against the Kansas City Chiefs. What was one of their weaknesses? Their O-line. And they exposed that O-line better than any other team. The Baltimore Ravens did not do that. The Buffalo Bills did not do that. The Houston Texans did not do that. None of these other teams did what the Philadelphia Eagles defense did against Kansas City Chiefs. They did not. And like, that's what great teams do. They're able to expose even the tiniest of a weakness to the point they exposed it so greatly that everyone tried to act like that O-line was just like the worst O-line in the history of the NFL. And it was like, it was fine against the Buffalo Bills. It was fine against the Houston Texans. It was fine against the Steelers. It was fine against all these other defenses, but not for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's the difference. So those are some of these little things, and it's great that in the division you now have these examples. You have these opportunities to prove, are you able to attack the details and the weaknesses? Are you able to find that, that broken chain in the link? That's what I'm looking for. They were unable to do it last year against the Detroit Lions, whose defense was falling apart. They were unable to expose it, unable to get after it. And I find that concerning, but again, we can excuse that because of how the season unfolded for them. That is not, it's like, if you're going to step in and truly be a great team, be a top team in the NFL, be the #1 seed, and not have it just be accidental because it was just like how the games unfolded. And it's actually because you are truly a top team in the NFL. It's like, those are the things that need to happen. And it's what also the Kansas City Chiefs do year after year. It's why they're able to win even if they're not blowing teams out. Because it's any of these little weaknesses like, okay, we got you. All we do is need the tiniest little bit of weakness and we know how to expose it on both sides of the ball. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Green Bay Packers not only winning the NFC North, but having the #1 seed in the NFL? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.